is going to be Lewis is going to be recording this, and Lewis will also be letting people in throughout. He's also going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have questions that you didn't send to me ahead of time, just feel free to type those into the chat. If it's a really easy, obvious one, Lewis will just type the answer right there. If it's one that we should talk about, he'll bring it up to me, and we'll talk about it. So
hey, Lewis, chat is disabled, just so you know.
Thank you.
We know what we're doing, huh? No questions? All right, we're good. Sorry. First of all, thanks everybody for coming. We really appreciate it. I know that spanning all the time zones that we have, this is more and less convenient for different ones of you all. And we really appreciate you guys understanding that this is a unique summer, and that coming to a meeting like this makes some sense to get your questions answered and to just give us an opportunity to lay things out. So we're really appreciative that everyone's here.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Hansen. So I'm a co-director and Adam's wife. And I also want to thank you all for taking the time to join us right now. It's been a year or more than a year. And it's been very interesting for us as we've sort of dabbled in the virtual world and did our best to try to keep like the camp community connected during this whole time. It was fun last summer. Lewis made some great virtual programming in the summer. We even had two campers that created a podcast, Nelson Mendels and Adam Everhard, which has been so fun to listen to. And the way I've enjoyed staying connected is I've been going back to old slideshows and like watching 2019 and 2018, because it's just nothing better than seeing the photos of the kids during real camp summers. So needless to say, we are over the moon that we get to be at camp and run real camp this summer with real people and all the joy and fun that we have. So tonight we're going to, be talking about some of the nitty-gritty stuff around COVID, but it's all for the purpose of making sure we have a safe, fun summer for all the kids. So anyway, thank you all for being here.
Since we have all of our full-time non-caretaking staff here, I wanted to just give them a chance to introduce themselves to you really quick before we jump in. These are people that you get emails from or have communications with that maybe you haven't met, so it might be a good time to do that. Lewis.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lewis, and I've been working as a full-time staff member at camp for, I guess this was my 4th winter. I'm the program director during the summer. So I get to make sure your kid has the most fun summer possible. And then during the winter, I do a lot of work with our alumni, and I do a lot of work with our new families. So I know those new families in particular, I think I've gotten to connect with a good number of you. So it's good to see everyone's faces.
Joe Briggs.
Hi, everyone. Joe Briggs here. I've been with camp for 10 years, and I love it. In the summer, I manage the office. If you call camp anytime during the year, I'm probably the first person that you get. And I'd love to see everyone's faces, those faces that I've talked to throughout the winters over the past, and we're excited to start camp.
And Fournier.
How's it going, everyone? Fournier here, as I like to say in every single email I send out. But I've been with camp now, I think this is my 23rd or 24th summer, 17 years full-time, the trip director, and spend my winters trying to track down staff and have fun doing that. So yeah, looking forward, definitely looking forward to getting trips out. Can't wait for that, and excited to see all the boys arrive.
Great. So we want to jump right into kind of the meat of this. My plan today.
Can I interrupt you? Can you introduce Trent?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forgot about Trent. Trent, are you here? So Trent is our
here. I am here, Adam.
Trent is our camp doctor. He's been our camp doctor for, I think, 20 summers now. He is a practicing physician in Nashville, and he's a medical school professor at Vanderbilt. So Trent's going to be with us the entire summer for the first time ever, and we feel really lucky that we've got Trent on board. You want to say
Trent feels
anything?
really lucky to be able to be at camp all summer.
Very good. All right, so now I want to jump into the meat of things. And I suspect that you all have a sense, given our attempts to communicate with you, different thought processes and plans as they've evolved a little bit, that we've really been working hard on this throughout the course of the year. The full-timers that you just heard from, they have just really been busting their tails a lot to create the safest, most positive, fun summer that we can this summer. And that's involved working up lots of plans and then reworking those plans and then reworking them some more. So there's been a lot of change, and we're really excited that most of that change, particularly recently, has been stuff that's been changed in a way that makes us able to be less restrictive instead of more restrictive. So we're feeling really good about that. Now, before we jump into all our plans, I want to start on a little bit, I guess, of a sour note. These are great plans, and we feel really confident about our plans. But having said that, what I can't say in this meeting today is there's no chance that we will have COVID in camp this summer. That's not a promise that I can make. What I can tell you is that we've done everything we can to make that the case, that it doesn't exist in camp. But on top of that, and probably more importantly, we are ready for it if it does enter camp this summer. And we think we've come up with intelligent ways to manage it if it does rear its head in camp, which we, I think also have a good plan to hopefully make sure it doesn't, but we're ready for it. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about how camp's going to look, and I guess we'll take this a little bit chronologically. So first, I'm going to talk about the first day of camp. We will talk about the testing component, and you all got an email from us yesterday or the day before about the testing component, and maybe you watched the video about that testing. We're going to have a whole separate section here, so I'm going to skip over that part for now and just talk about camp on that first day. All right, so the first thing you need to know is that by and large, the travel to camp thing is going to be as it's been in the past. So we're going to be running buses from Chicago, and kids are going to be flying into Minneapolis. You all already know this because you've already all told us how you're getting to camp. But I want to let you know is two things in particular about those buses first. First is that we're running the buses at roughly 50% of their capacity to just cut down on the number of bodies that are in there. All the kids, you all know this because you got them from us, all the kids will be wearing a KN95 mask for those bus rides because that's when the closest contact is going to be. But having said that, we've also checked with the bus company, and their ventilation systems in there significantly exceed the recommendations for exchange of air to keep it as safe as possible in there. So we're really comfortable about the bus situation. As far as flying goes, obviously on those flights, the kids will be in those same masks. And then our plan is when they come in, typically what we've done in the past is we all kind of hang out in the airport and wait until there's enough kids that come in, excuse me, that we have enough to fill a bus. This year, as soon as they come in, we're going to be moving them out of the airport. We're going to have vans waiting to take them to a local park that we've reserved a covered space in, so that the kids can be outside, throwing a Frisbee, distanced, and just get out of that building. We just wanted to get out of the airport as quickly as we can. So then when everyone gets to camp, we're going to, when everyone gets to camp, our philosophy during the first part of camp is a cabin cohort philosophy. So that means that cabin groups are going to stick together for the first, we think, 6 days of camp. That means they'll do their activities together and that they'll basically be spending their time together during that first 6 days. And the idea of that is probably pretty obvious. We want to make sure that should any COVID have entered camp, we want to keep it as contained as we possibly can. So when they're in those cohort groups, they will not need to be masked because they're going to be with those guys for a whole week and they're going to be sleeping with them and living with them. We're viewing those cohort groups much like you do your house, right? So in your house, I assume you all are not wearing masks. And so that's how those cabin groups will work. During that first 6 days of camp, we're going to do 2 different PCR tests of the boys, one on day 3 and one on day 6. And with the hope that when we hit that one on day 6, we've got no cases and we can really open up camp some more. I'm going to get back to that next bullet point. So Lewis, why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit more about what's going to be going on as soon as you unmute yourself.
There we go. Sorry about that. I'm unmuted. Like I said before, I'm the program director, and so I do a lot of work with what that in-camp looks like. Yeah.
Lean forward.
Lean forward. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Like I said, I'm the program director, and I spend a lot of time thinking about what our in-camp program looks like. And so one of the big safety measures we're going to be taking this year is spending as much time outdoors as possible. And for those families who have sent a boy to Nebagamon before, I think you guys know that luckily we already spend a ton of time outdoors. And so this isn't going to be actually that big of a change. 2 of our program areas, we're going to move outside. So those 2 program areas are our photography program and MOCA, it stands for Masters of the Culinary Arts. That's our cooking program. And so the plan on both of those is to still be able to offer film photography during the summer. Our campers will be able to take pictures just like they would, and any other summer. We'll teach them photo composition, and they'll be able to get those pictures developed and take them home. For our MOCA project, our cooking project, that usually happens at an indoor kitchen, and we are going to be fashioning a nice outdoor kitchen. It is not going to be like wilderness or campfire cooking because that's something that we already offer at our camp craft program that's called Canuck. So we're going to be still teaching those kind of indoor cooking skills, just with an outdoor range and outdoor stove. So those are our 2 main program areas that are going to feature a change. As for our dining hall, in a traditional summer, we would be eating inside. And this summer, actually, our caretakers spent a good couple weeks this winter constructing 30 picnic tables so that we're going to be able to eat all of our meals outside. And so each cabin is going to get a table to themselves, and we'll be running food in and out of the rec hall just like we would at a normal meal. But instead of running to your table inside, we'll be running to your table right outside the doors. On rainy days, our plan right now is to have, our plan is to have staggered meal times and separate seatings, probably on our porches of our rec hall. If you've been to camp before, they're large screened in porches. And so we'll have staggered meal times, enough of them so that we'll be able to make sure all of our campers are able to eat inside, covered, and at enough distance from the other tables so that they can take their mask off when they eat. So that is, those are kind of 2 big program areas. Adam, do you want to talk about some of the COVID points on that phase, or do you want to go backwards?
Yeah. So I mentioned masking before. In the current plan, the times that we're going to be expecting kids to be masked are on travel day, and then when they get to camp, we're going to ask that when they're in the bathrooms, obviously not when they're brushing their teeth because, well, and when they're in the bathrooms, if they go to the infirmary, and if during this first phase, any cohort group is intermixing with another one, which we are not planning, to be honest with you. The plan is to keep them separate, to just totally take that out of the equation. So that's what we're thinking in terms of masking. And then the other thing that I just wanted to point out is that we've really upped our staff numbers this year. We have extra cabin counseling staff, and we have extra staff that's going to be really, their main function is just going to be cleaning stuff. So we will be doubling the number of times that we clean our bathrooms, and just really being extra specially on top of cleaning around camp, and we've staffed up for that. So after we get, hopefully after day 6, all of those negative tests, then we're going to move into the next phase. So Lewis, are you going to talk about that some more?
I am. Can I go backwards for just one moment to talk about activities in that first phase?
Yep.
Okay,
Yes.
cool. So in that first phase, we are still going to work to make sure that we're giving campers the options to be going to the projects they want to be going to. So cabins will be going to projects all together. But what we're going to do that first night they arrive is we're going to hand every camper a survey, and they're going to be able to let us know that first night which projects they want to go to in those first, hopefully 6 days. And then that night, we're going to hand design a schedule so that each cabin, we're maximizing the number of the projects that those kids want to go to. And then on top of that, we're actually going to be adding an hour of project time this summer during that first phase. So it's going to be called fifth period for you Nebagamon people. That I think fifth period is new. And we're going to be able to, that way we're going to be able to offer an additional hour of that project instruction time, just so that we make sure kids are getting to the projects that they're interested in getting in that first week. So Adam, am I good to move to that next phase?
Yep. And lean
Cool.
forward, please.
Yep. Sorry. So after those first 6 days, we are still going to be maximizing our outside time. That means probably meals outside still, and that means projects outside as well. We're going to shift to campers choosing their own schedule every morning. That's going to mean that your kid is going to wake up, be able to go look at our project board and design their own schedule every single day. And that also means that they'll be able to go to projects with boys from different cabins and different villages. And in particular, that kind of interaction we're going to be comfortable with all over camp. So I know I've been working a lot with you big brothers and little brothers to start making those connections before camp. And once we move past those first 6 days, we feel really good that those big brothers and little brothers are going to get some really great opportunities to interact. And then in particular, I know we've got some siblings on this chat, I'm sure, and we'll be able to have those folks interacting a lot more as well. And then if everything goes to plan, actually, this is kind of a happy coincidence of our schedule. But after that 6th day, that 7th day, if everything goes well, should be a Sunday at Camp Nebagamon, which if you've ever been at Camp Nebagamon before, Sunday's quite a special day. And so we're really hoping that we're going to be able to have that first big all group activity be a night out at our council fire ring. So I know I'm really looking forward to that. So that's what I've got on programming. I was just going to answer a real quick one. Someone asked about, I think Dana Singerman, just a quick question. The cohorts are going to be cabins to start. We aren't going to be cohorting by village. It's a group of 8 or so boys and 2 counselors in that initial cohort.
And that cohorting thing that we're talking about, is my sound terrible all of a sudden?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
That cohorting thing that we're talking about is really the main reason why we felt like we really wanted to staff up this year. Because, if I'm laying my cards out on the table to you all, that week where the kids are really just with each other in that cabin and the counselors are with them basically 24/7, that's going to be, it's really cool because they're going to get a chance to connect with cabin mates. But by day 6, they're going to probably be ready to have some time doing some other things too. So we just wanted to make sure that we've got as many fresh people to help them through that as we can. All right. So that's kind of phase 1, and then phase after phase 1. The whole concept is day 6, we get all negative tests in camp, and we realize that the bubble that we hope to create has been created, and then we can really exist as one family unit at camp. That's the philosophy. All right. I know that some of you all are wondering about the what ifs, so I thought we would spend a little bit of time talking about the what ifs. And I think that the principal what if you all want to know is what if you have a positive case in camp. So the first thing I want to say is that if we have a positive case in camp, it is not our feeling that that child will need to go home. That, of course, will be up to you, the parents, to make that ultimate decision. But we feel really comfortable that we can take care of him health-wise and medically, but also that we can provide him with a positive experience. It will be different, of course, if he's a positive COVID case, but it will. But we think it'll be positive. We're going to reserve 2 cabins where we're not putting any kids into them this summer, so that in case there's a positive case, that's a place where that positive case and 2 counselors would move in for a 10-day period. That's assuming that it's a real positive case. And one of the things that we'll be doing right away is retesting just to verify that is in fact a real positive case. But that's a 10-day period that they're in there. They'll be in there with 2 counselors. It will be a different camp experience, of course, but a really unique one where you've got 2 counselors that you're going to develop a good relationship with, and they'll be able to go into camp and do activities. There'll be activities that there's nobody else at the time, but they'll still be able to do camp activities during that period. The other thing you're going to want to know about is what if there's a positive case, what happens to the other kids in that cabin? So if there's a positive case in a cabin, and remember, the beauty of this thing that we've created here is that it really just affects the one group, right? So if there's a positive case in that cabin, they're going to remain, this is if it happens in that first phase, they're going to remain in that first phase for another 5 days so that we can get more testing done on them, and hopefully realize that it was just the one camper in the cabin that had it. But if there are others in the cabin that then test positive, they'll go into the same protocol that we were talking about before. So then if the cabin remained in that phase 1 phase, again, just a reminder, that means they'll be doing things together as a cabin group and going to activities. So they're still going to be doing the stuff. They're just going to be doing it as a cabin group. We will notify the entire camp community if there is a positive case in camp. You will all hear about it, and we'll be calling the families of the affected boys. That's obviously the boy who tested positive. We'll give you a call about that, but also the other families in that cabin. All right, I'm going to move on to some pre-camp stuff. We're going to talk about pre-camp quarantine that we want and pre-camp testing. So first, let me talk about quarantining pre-camp. So if your son is unvaccinated, we're asking for a 7-day quarantine prior to camp, where basically his only interactions are with you and the family. Now, if he is in school still and the school won't let you go remote, if he's in school and the school won't let you go remote, he can go to school, but then our expectation is that he goes right home afterwards. So we're asking for a pretty solid, hard quarantine, 7 days for unvaccinated kids. If your son is vaccinated, we're going to ask that you still try to maintain a pretty good quarantine there. We don't want them going to day camps during that time period. We don't want them going to any Taylor Swift concerts or really any concerts. I like Taylor Swift. And we don't want them playing any outdoor unmasked sports. If they're on a sports team and they can do it masked, even if they're vaccinated, that's cool. Okay, so that's our expectations for quarantine. Briggs, you want to talk about that testing thing that we sent home the other day, and the video and all that?
For sure. We've sent out a link to a video that we've produced. I apologize for my horrible acting skills, but please, all of you, we want you to watch that. It's about 12 minutes long, and it talks about the test that we will be mailing to you a week from today. I'll be putting a test in the mail. It's going to come in a very shiny metallic silver mailer, and you'll receive one of these for each camper in your household. And inside are the materials needed to test. It's very important that that you keep this safe and that you understand exactly how to use the items inside them. I'm not going to go over the whole testing procedure in front of all of you now, but please be sure if you have any questions or concerns, you can't get that video to play, or if you don't understand something, please reach out to us so we can make sure that that you can test successfully. And we're going to ask that you do that the Thursday before camp. The test is a PCR test that uses saliva. So we don't have any of those swabs, those nasty things. And you can do this in the house. And you're going to be FedExing this test by 3 p.m. on Thursday before camp. We've included a FedEx envelope and label, so you can drop it off at any FedEx location. It's going to be overnighted to a lab in Texas, and we will get results by Saturday morning. And so we can communicate with each of you about, if for some reason there is a problem that we need to address. This PCR test is very important to our COVID strategy, and we need all of you to make sure that you're able to do this. Does anyone have any questions about the test?
You can just unmute yourself if you do.
For sure.
I
Kim
don't have a
Mack.
question, but
Hi, yeah,
Oh.
Hey, Ken.
just a real quick one. As somebody who has had to test multiple times a week, we found, the saliva tests are not nearly as accurate as the nasal swabs. Is there any concern about that? I mean, we had a false positive in the house that shut things down for about a week because of a false positive saliva test. Any concern about that on your ends?
So this test in particular, to be honest with you, no. This is a unique test. It's through the University of I'm sorry. This one is a unique test, and it's one that we feel really quite comfortable. We've done our homework on it, Ken, and we feel good about it. Is there a chance of a false positive? Of course. But the data we've seen on this test does not indicate that it's less effective than a nasal one.
Briggs, did you want to address the addresses?
Yeah, so we'll be mailing these on May 31st. It's a week from today. If for some reason you need the test to be sent to an alternate location, we think these tests should arrive a week from that date. So we're hoping by July 7th, everyone has tests in hand. Please email me, or you can call the office here up at camp, and we can make sure to send that to the appropriate address. Please do that before the end of this week, if you can. That way we can make sure when we print those labels and get those sent out, we can do so appropriately. Thank you, Steph.
So quick answers to questions. Yes, that the camp tests are saliva tests as well. That's another super unique test. The University of Illinois, they search for 3 strands of DNA. It's been an extraordinarily well reviewed and respected test. Melissa Bell asks if we have a positive results, will we do another one? So first of all, at the labs, when there's a positive result, they do it again right then. And then, yes, we would do it again if they came back with it as well. Nicole Apple, yes, if someone in your son's cabin tests positive, you will all be exposed of informed, not exposed. You will all be informed of the exposure. Go ahead, Abe.
Yeah, I was just wondering what happens if they test positive before getting on the flight.
Sadly, what happens then is they don't get on the flight. That we're not, the airline wouldn't be cool with it, and we wouldn't be cool with it at that point. So what we would do is we would be in contact about what are the options at that point. But yeah, we're not going to put a kid on a plane who is positive for COVID.
Adam,
Yeah, I wouldn't expect.
Adam, question from
Pam.
Ken.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Pam is asking, would we also accept a nasal PCR? Yeah, if you want to do your own PCR test, as long as you get it to us in time, that's fine. But please let us know ahead of time, because the lab has a list of all of our families, and they'll be alerting us we didn't get one from this family. And if we know ahead of time, that's useful. So Rebecca, we're going to get to your question. We're just going to deal right now with testing questions. Are there any more testing questions? All right, I want to shift and talk about vaccination a little bit. First of all, if your kid can get vaccinated and you're comfortable with it, please do it. It makes a huge difference for our plan here at camp. The more kids that are vaccinated, the safer we feel about it, and just the less opportunities that bug has to get in there. So, please seriously consider it. And we would love to have everybody do it who is eligible. When your son does get vaccinated, there is a space on your CampMinder account for you to upload that card. So you can send us a picture of that card so that we can see it. A lot of you will be able to get one dose at home, and then you're wondering what happens then. We've talked to Douglas County. Douglas County is where Camp Nebagamon is, and they have. I asked them, hey, will you guys come out and vaccinate our kids if they need it? And they have said that they will. So kids who need a second dose when they get to camp, or kids who turn 12 when they're at camp and are eligible, will be able to make that happen right at camp if that's what you want us to do. Questions about vaccinations?
From Shauna Krupnik, if your child is fully vaccinated and a child in his cabin tests positive, will your child need to quarantine?
If your child is fully vaccinated, and so we're just going to want to get one more negative test at that point after we've had a positive in the cabin.
Another question about vaccines from Annie Roche. What % of kids are vaccinated that we know of? What % of staff are vaccinated? And is it going to be a requirement for anyone to get vaccinated?
Okay, so first of all, in case there's any lawyers here, there is not a requirement in order to gain employment here at Camp Nebagamon that you are vaccinated. Having said that, all of our staff will be vaccinated this summer. We've been working with them and in certain cases coercing them, and yeah, they will all be vaccinated. Now, some of them, like the people I mentioned, who are going to be coming tomorrow, they're not going to be, they're still going to be ramping up their immunity, but they should be all fully immune, or the vaccination should be at its full effectiveness by the time those kids arrive. What % of kids? Hard to know. We did do a little math experiment, and we figured that during the first session, if every 12-year-old did get vaccinated, that we would have about 60, a little bit more than 60 kids in camp, 60 people in our community that were not vaccinated. So that felt pretty good when we saw that number too. So if that were to happen, it's really nice. Any more testing or vaccination questions, Louis?
Let me make sure. From Teresa Heist, she's already uploaded a photo of her son's first vaccination card. Will the system allow you to update the document? I believe they can. Is that right, Briggs?
So unfortunately, CampMinder only allows one upload of a form. Please email me any updates. We'll take those. But if you have a half-complete card, please go ahead and submit that just so we have that information as quickly as possible. So any updates to those, send directly to my email, briggs@campnebagamon.com.
And Andy Mack asks, will campers who turn 12 be offered a first dose? Yeah, we can do that first dose, not just second.
From Karine Matz, and then I think I got this one from Spencer Klein as well. What will quarantine look like for second session for 8-week campers for folks who are going to be there for
second session? We're just hitting a reset button because we've got all those new kids coming in, and rather than separate the 8-weekers from their cabin mates who are 4-weekers, we're going to just hit the reset button and start phase 1 again.
So it will be a separate 6 days for first and second session. Both of those will have.
All right, I've seen a couple questions about staff and staff time off. So this is something that the that the CDC has made a little bit, well, to be honest, a little bit more easy for us, and also, you know, made us kind of wring our hands a little bit. They basically have said that vaccinated people can go out and for the most part do what they want. We're not going that far. We are saying at this point that staff that we're viewing, we still want to keep our bubble, right? The philosophy is a bubble, but our philosophy of the bubble is a bubble of people as opposed to a geography bubble. So the staff will be permitted on their time off to go and leave camp and spend time with people in our bubble. So, you know, they can't go and meet up with their friends that they've made in Duluth, but they can go to a state park with the other counselors that they're friends with and barbecue out there and get a little break from being here. So yes, that means that we need to trust our counselors to make good choices, but heck, we're trusting them with your kids because these are people that we do trust and that we do have faith in their decision making. All right, Lewis, fire. So we are now in the Q&A part of the thing. So if anyone has any questions, put them in there. Lewis, you can scroll back and see what questions we have. I think one of the other most common questions we had was, if my son is vaccinated already, does he have to do the pre-camp testing? The answer is we are going to want to do one gateway test on that boy. So every kid is going to come in and give us that one test. Now, when they get to camp, we haven't made a final decision on this. Certainly the recommendation from all sorts of places is that you don't need to test vaccinated people. So we very possibly will not be testing vaccinated campers in the in-camp setting. We do want that gateway one. We do want that gateway test done, though.
Some questions for you. From Carolyn, how many kids will be in cabins this summer? Is it going to be less than usual?
Yeah, so the cabin groups will vary. Those vary by age groups. They vary by the size of the cabin. So we're taking a look at the cabins to make sure that they're set up in a way that meets the ACA guidance for a COVID summer, as well as CDC guidance as well.
All right. Question from Charles Mendels, just asking about the impact that this is going to have on our tripping program this summer.
Right. So the tripping program, it's going to have a little impact. First of all, the tripping program, the way we view it, doesn't need to be greatly affected by this because you know, when you go on a trip, you're with the guys who are on that trip, and our wilderness trip drivers all live in the bubble. So they're in that bubble. So they'll drive the kids up there. They drop them off in the woods where they're not seeing other people. They camp in the woods for their trip, and then they come back with that trip driver again. So trips at their essence totally can exist how they always have existed. There's two tricky things. The first is the Canadian border is closed currently, and we do not anticipate that it will be open. So one of our big trips, literally our big trip, it's called Big Trip, is a Quetico Big Trip, goes into Canada. Obviously, that's probably not going to be able to happen. So that's for our 10th grade campers, but we're still going to give them an opportunity to spend 2 full weeks in the Boundary Waters, really getting to get around that place in a unique kind of a way for 2 weeks. The other trip, which is our Isle Royal Big Trip, that's what our 9th graders would be taking this year. That trip, that trip requires a long ferry ride. Somebody typed that into the chat. That trip requires a long ferry ride, and that's not something that we're comfortable with that much of the general population. That violates the concept of our people bubble that I was telling you about. So that trip is not going to be able to happen. We are hard at work we are going to create a very unique special trip that the boys who were 9th graders in the summer of 2021 are able to say to the people that follow them, yeah, you went to the Isle, but we went to, I think I'm muted. We went to We don't know yet. We're working on that one still, to be totally honest with you.
Great. Here's an easy one for you from Michael and Andy Mack. Is DQ in the bubble?
DQ is in the bubble. Here's what we got really lucky. Our initial plan, that's right. Our initial plan was that DQ was not going to be in the bubble, and we were going to try and come up with some solution in camp. But a camp alumni, as chance would have it, rented the house right next to the Dairy Queen. And this house has a massive lawn, a huge lawn sitting in front of it. And so basically our kids are going to march to this lawn, and they're going to sit on that lawn while their counselors go pick up their Dairy Queen and bring it to them. The lawn's right on the lake. It's going to be a totally cool, I mean, we totally lucked out on this one. So DQ fully in play.
And for those who don't know, at Lake Nebagamon's DQ, you don't even have to go inside. There's just an outside window where they pick up the food.
And they take the Camp Nebagamon checkbooks.
It's a good one. Okay. A quick question. I can answer this one. Are there going to be any activities that we won't offer during COVID? And our plan right now is to be able to offer as many, all of our normal projects that we would normally offer. But like I said, some are going to be modified. So the ones that will be indoors are going to be outdoors. But we're going to have the same number of activities, the same suite of stuff that would get closer.
Yeah.
We're going to have the same number of activities, and we're going to be able to offer all of those things just with some slight modifications. I think we don't have a Camp Nebagamon Venmo. I don't think, but that's a great question. I don't
Louis, face the thing, please. There you go.
Sorry. I don't think I've missed any questions, but if I have, feel free to unmute yourself or type them in the chat because I think I might be out.
There's one question just came in. How is it possible that after doing this for 18 years, Adam, you look younger every time I see you? Thank you. That comes from Adam Fournier, apparently. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate that, buddy.
Oh, one from Rachel Matz. Are we going to be extending camp for all campers because everyone missed a year?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So, and that's, I think that goes to Mr. Maidenberg's question as well. So this summer, as you probably all know, we added a 10th grade summer so that the boys who were 9th graders and missed out on it last year could have their summer. And so we're running up through 10th grade. And so for the person who asked, does that mean that there's going to be 8th graders in the Axman Village this year? That means yes. We do see this as the plan for the foreseeable future. We don't want any kid to get cheated out of any year. Those culminating trips, those last 2 years, those are really a big deal. And these boys would have been super crushed to have missed their what they think of as their 9th grade year, which is now their 10th grade year. At some point it'll switch back, but it's not this year or next year. It's not in the next few years. At some point we'll switch back, but at this point it's for the foreseeable future.
So Adam,
Go ahead.
I think there are 2 questions that I don't think you addressed. One of them is, will we do any testing after 6 days once all of camp is together?
Yeah, our plan is to do one more test, and that's going to be probably 10 days after that 6-day one, just kind of as a surveillance test, just to make sure that we are what we think we are. And was
then
there a second one, Steph? Oh, sorry, okay.
The other one is if, for instance, all lumberjacks are vaccinated or everyone in a certain grade, will bubbles be expanded for that first week beyond just the cabin?
Bubbles will be expanded. They won't be until that first week. At least that's the current plan. It's possible that in the next 3 weeks, there's going to be more that comes out about vaccinated people and transmission. That makes us feel more comfortable. We're waiting. I mean, I think you guys all know that's been kind of the burning question for all of us here as vaccines have come out. What about vaccinated people and transmission? If that information comes out here in the next couple of weeks, we might be able to loosen even more.
Couple of more questions for you. Arthur Fleischer was asking about the possibility of a long trip for 10th grade campers.
So long trip, for those of you who don't know, is like a 28-day trip that occasionally we offer if there is a group of kids that have a serious interest in that. I think Fournier and I were just talking about that today. And we're gonna probably do, check me if I'm wrong here, we're gonna do a little survey of interest in that grade and see whether there is, and then see whether we can pull it off. Did I say it right, Adam? All
Good
right.
job, Adam.
Thanks, buddy. And thanks for the compliment about my youth.
Wasn't me.
Heather Gladstein is asking if her campers prefer disposable masks. Is that all right? The packing list says cloth masks.
I mean, look, the answer to that is we're not gonna get in the way of that. I sure would hate to see us filling up trash bins with disposable masks every day when it can be done in a way with reusable masks. But look, if your kid can't cut it, if it's too hard for him with a cloth mask, if it's too hard to breathe through that, and that's what he needs, you know, we're not gonna tear a mask off of a kid.
Okay.
Thanks, Adam.
Yep.
Couple of questions about programs that we run in most summers. We had questions about how 4th of July will change, how Paul Bunyan Day will change, and we are still doing the Birch Trail Social. Do you mind if I go ahead on these?
Sure.
All right, so 4th of July, we think it would be safest for, so our 4th of July is a huge day for our first session campers, and we put on quite the celebration. Most of that celebration is gonna be exactly the same. We are gonna have to modify one thing, and that's we generally walk in our the Lake Nebagamon Village Parade, and we think that this year it would be safer for us to not do that. But I have a stellar plan for some awesome activities to slot in there, and it's going to be a great day. I'm pretty sure we'll still be able to watch fireworks. There'll be a huge softball game. It's going to be a great day regardless. Paul Bunyan Day, I don't see any significant changes. It's scheduled right now for pretty late in first session. That goes true for Grand Pursuit in the second session as well. So I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those will look pretty much identical. And then the Birch Trail Social, along with the other events that we do with other camps, are all going to be postponed until to some future years, like our buy camp competition with some other camps. Those other camps are going through the same stuff we are right now.
So your child is going to be denied that 4 hours of incredible awkwardness with the Birch Trail girls. We apologize for that. We aim to make your kids as uncomfortable as possible, but this year we're going to have to deny them that.
A quick question from Andrea Hesser. If a boy feels sick, are we going to run a PCR test on them? And how long will it take for results to come back from that PCR test?
That's a really good question, Annie. We have on site some antigen tests, which we all know are not quite as good as the PCR tests. However, the antigen tests in symptomatic situations are quite good. So we're going to be able to, if a kid is showing symptoms, be able to do a rapid immediate test. If that test is positive, we will presume positive and move into our normal protocol. And if that test is negative, we feel good. We feel comfortable with that. Because symptomatic for COVID is the same as symptomatic for cold or the yucks. So that's why we think we should do it like that.
I wanted to add real quick. We've gotten a couple of questions pertaining to camp in general, and I've seen them and I've made notes. I'm gonna tackle these COVID questions first. So just letting you all know. Abigail Solomon has a question that her son has gotten used to double masking. Is that something we're going to encourage this summer? Should she try to wean him off of double masking?
So again, the important thing to understand about the way we've set things up is that these kids are going to be outside almost all the time, except for when they're with their family group in that cabin, in that cohort. And there's really very little, there's very little evidence that outdoor transmission, particularly when people are keeping at a distance from each other, is a thing. I don't think that double masking will be necessary. If he's more comfortable with that, that's perfectly fine. We won't not permit it, but it won't be necessary, given that we're going to be outdoors anyways. And that mask is really, so the whole philosophy of all this stuff we're doing is a Swiss cheese approach. I don't know if you have all heard this Swiss cheese approach. I can see my school administrator down there. He knows what I'm talking about. Right? Swiss cheese is a piece of cheese. It's got a bunch of holes in it. So the only way that you can mitigate those holes is to put another piece of cheese on it, right? And that covers up those holes, and maybe you still have some more holes, so you put another piece of cheese on it. So we're doing as much as we can, as many layers of protection as we can, so that we can, do the best that we can to keep it out and mitigate it if it's here.
Awesome. Some more COVID questions along the lines of masking. I think this one is Pam Callis was asking to summarize the situations in which campers could be unmasked.
Right. So generally speaking, campers will be unmasked during phase 1 when they're in their cohort, which is going to be most of the time, pretty much all the time in phase 1. And in phase 2, then the only time they'll be masked in those situations will be when they're at the infirmary, when they are in the JOPS, and what's the third one, Briggs? I feel like those are the main times there.
Let's see. Dave Brick is asking about what's this one? Sorry. How are we going to respond to allergy symptoms versus COVID? So telling those things apart.
Right. Obviously, the first catch of that is if we know that if we know that your son has allergies, that's a first clue to us. But we're going to have hundreds of these antigen tests on site to be able to just give us peace of mind in situations like that. It's a super quick 15-minute result test.
A question from Karen Matz. What's our plan if we have a camper who gets extremely sick, is the way she phrased it. Is camp equipped with things like oxygen? I think Trent mentioned in the chat that he wanted to address this one.
And Trent said he would jump in at that one. Hey, Karen, that's a great question. The way I like to think about it is most of the time the camp doctor there is useless. And so in as much as possible, the moment kids get really sick with anything real, we lean on professional medical services. So in the situation that someone actually breaks a bone or has a true anaphylactic reaction that we can't manage, or needs oxygen, those aren't things that we do at camp. Those are things that we immediately refer in. We're very fortunate that both Duluth and Superior have hospitals and clinics that have real medical equipment. So we've got emergency equipment and we try never to use it.
Kind of a specific one from Heather Gladstein. She's familiar with some of our early riser campers who get to wake up early before the wake up bell and hang out in the big house. She was wondering if that is off limits this summer.
Well, during phase one, we won't be doing, they'll be staying in the cabins. So that will provide a unique challenge for the counselors of those cabins to help those boys stay quiet and not wake up the others that are sleeping in there. Thus, the extra staff this summer. And once we move past that, no, the kids are not going to go in the big house, but they're going to discover that as cool as our big house is, there is nothing quite as cool as that porch of that big house. It's a fantastic place to hang out.
Thank you.
Awesome. There's an interesting one. Are our antigen tests saliva based? I don't actually know this one.
Yeah, they're not. So when we're giving those, that will be that uncomfortable moment for them. Thanks, Robin. I didn't want to talk about that.
Amy Polanski, she thinks this one might be for Trent. She says there seems like a tiny number of kids with cardio side effects who post-vac with cardio side effects post-vaccine. If a kid has been recently vaccinated, how are we going to deal with any weird symptoms or anything like that?
So that's another great question. So one of the things, I'm formulating an answer. So one of the things to keep in mind is that most kids who get vaccinated, we're asking you to get them vaccinated before they come to camp. As Adam said, Douglas County is going to come in and offer vaccine a couple times during camp. So there will be some kids who will be freshly vaccinated and at camp. And then there will be kids who get vaccinated, the day before you send them to camp. My son is one of those people. So we're going to have this whole variety. We watch all of them. We ask all of our campers, we ask all of our counselors to keep an eye on the kids, and if they develop any concerning symptoms, to let us know. I'm aware that there are some camps out there where the counselors manage the kids' health and meds. That is not what we do at Nebagamon. At Nebagamon, anytime anyone has a clinical concern, it comes up to the infirmary, and our very experienced RN and medical staff or I will see that camper very, very quickly. And then if it's something we're concerned about, we'll all look at it. As I said before, anything that's weird or unstable that we identify after a thorough exam, we might have to send them into town. Adam is very good at making sure we don't ever do that without talking to you along the way. I'm just the random guy who's pretending to be a doc for the summer, but all of you have a life of experience with your kids and a pediatrician, and so a lot of times we'll make these decisions in consultation with you and even with your pediatrician. I speak all the time on the phone to people's pediatricians. So some kid might be having a weird rare heart side effect, and another kid might be having anxiety, and you're part of us evaluating that, telling us that, yeah, that's exactly what my son does when he's scared of something, or my son never does that. That's really weird. You need to check it out. We pay a lot of personalized attention when kids complain of things.
By the way, not pretending to be a doctor, just to be clear.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Hey, I'll tell the jokes here, Trent. All right.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Lewis.
On that topic from Sherry Green, who goes with them if they get sent into town for medical care?
So it'll be obviously only 100% of our staff is vaccinated. It'll be vaccinated staff. And we try whenever possible to make that a staff member that they are already very comfortable with, because that can be kind of scary going in there. So we try whenever possible to pull someone that they are already familiar with and trust and feel good about.
And sometimes it's actually Adam Kaplan who goes in.
Only in really significant crises, yes.
From Dan Rontal, if parents and campers are both vaccinated, could a parent come do a changeover visit, presuming the CDC says there is low risk of vaccinated transmission?
So Dan, I can only tell you what we're thinking right now about that. This may change as facts on the ground continue to evolve here. But right now, that clearly violates our people bubble thing, and so we would not. We're not doing parent. Our current plan is to not do parent visits this year. But for 8-week campers, we are planning on doing some sort of FaceTime, Zoom connection with you and your boy, if you want.
So
if you want.
Did you, Lewis? Sorry, Adam? Did you address Dana Singerman's? She said, "Sorry if I missed this, but if a camper tests positive, is he sent home?"
Yeah. So Dana, our expectation is that he does not need to go home. If you say, "Look, my kid," if you say, "This scares me and I want him in my hands," of course we'll let you take him home. But we feel like we have a plan in place to both take care of him medically and provide him with a positive experience, albeit challenging and different. We think kind of a neat and growth thing for them as well.
Another question from Dan Mendelson about saying, forgive me if it was covered, but what's the plan for Quetico?
Right. So, the Canadian border's closed right now. So we're planning for those 10th graders to do a 2-week paddle around the boundary waters at this point.
Let's see. Michael Zeitz, yes, we do notify parents when your kids have gotten to camp. We send out a big letter to everyone all at once. Another, I think, oh, there was another question, Jim, about those 12-year-olds who are going to be coming back, who are going to be vaccinated coming prior to camp. We did touch on this one quite a bit, but for the most part, we're thinking the at-camp experience will not be changed with their vaccination status. I'm going to go into some different, some non-COVID questions, if that's all right. Feel free to keep asking them. We can totally go back to them. But there were a couple that popped up that I want to address. CC, I can answer this one. How many new campers are coming this year? I think right now, between first and second session, we have around 110 or so. I don't have that number perfectly on the top of my head. And then we got a couple questions, Adam, just talking about homesickness, specifically asking about prevention before camp starts, mitigation before camp starts, and then some questions about what would homesickness look like if it was continuing for more than a week at camp. Could a camper call home, for instance, something along those lines?
All right. So your homesickness 101 is, first of all, the way that you can help him best as he prepares for camp is when he's talking about the things that he is nervous about, that you kind of shift the conversation to things that are exciting about that are going to be at camp. Our basic philosophy is to accentuate the things that are exciting about camp. Make sure that he hears you, that when he says he's nervous about going there, but then it's to focus in on the things that are really fun and exciting. Now, believe it or not, there's a great deal of research into homesickness. And that research does indicate that for some kids, it can extend beyond a week. It can go typically, a relatively average number is 10 days. Now that'll be to varying degrees, and different kids will experience it and different kids will not experience it at all. So if your son is experiencing some homesickness, even 7 days into camp, it's okay. He's still within those normal curves. He's squarely within those normal curves. And the truth is, they all get over it. That homesickness is kind of a natural part of this. We like to call it adjustment issues, if that's okay. It's kind of a natural part of this, and part of why you go to camp is to challenge yourself a little bit. And when you have something that's challenging, like having adjustment issues, when you finally beat it, all that stuff that I talked about when I came to your house or gave you that Zoom presentation, about that stuff, about the inside, about accomplishing something, that really does work. That really is powerful in those guys in those moments. We don't do phone calls when a kid is homesick. If you say to me, Adam, my kid's homesick, and I insist that you let me talk to him, I'll do it. I'm going to tell you prior to that you're about to make it worse for him, and you're certainly about to make it worse for all of us at camp, because our experience across the board has been that phone call when a kid is struggling with adjustment stuff sets back his timer. That the progress that he's making goes backwards after he hears your voice. You may feel like it's what you should do, but it tends to really not work out. If your son is experiencing some adjustment stuff, you are going to hear from me. And a lot of times you're going to hear from me saying, hey, I need your help on this. Here's what we're seeing. What does that sound like to you? Or I need your help on this. Can you write a letter that says, I'm really excited for you. Adam tells me you're having a hard time. We're proud of you. We know you can do this. We'll kind of strategize what is the best kind of way to communicate with him, but you'll be writing, not calling in that moment. One of the things that we've really kind of I've thought a lot about as we ramp up to this summer in particular, is that for a lot of these guys, they're going to be really, this is separate from homesick, but this has to do with kind of being at camp and adjusting to it. They're going to be really out of practice for this kind of intense interpersonal stuff. They haven't done it for a long time. Some of them have, barely been in school. Some of them haven't been in school. And so getting to camp is going to be really shocking to them. And to be honest with you, if one of your questions is, what's that going to look like, Adam? My answer is, I don't know. But I can tell you that during staff week this year, we're going to spend some time talking to counselors about how to help kids relearn how to interact with each other, and talk, really drilling down on how to just have kids communicate with each other and connect with each other and resolve conflict together, more so than even usual, because they're super out of practice. And it occurred to me that they may need some coaching on this. So that's something we're going to be doing.
I've got a question here from Talia Gold. No, excuse me. Maybe I don't know who it's from. It was a question about if siblings are going to be able to see each other in those initial 6 days.
So my plan is that they'll be able to see each other from a distance, but they're not going to be able to hug each other or anything like that. But they'll be able to see each other. We'll give them that opportunity.
A couple of nuts and bolts questions. How often are campers required to write home?
Campers write home at least 2 times a week. That is a requirement. They have to write a letter to home at least 2 times a week. I can vouch for them writing the letter. I cannot vouch for the content of the letter. But please bear in mind that sometimes the best letter to get is, they're making me write this. Camp is fun. Love, Adam. At least you got love in there. Anyways, so I can't vouch for the content, but they'll be writing you at least twice a week.
Adam, how often do parents get an update from counselors about how their camper is doing?
Okay, so you're going to hear from, you're going to be offered a phone call with the counselors about a week into camp. Probably be within a couple days after we've hopefully broken out of our phase 1. So the counselors will give you a call if you want them to. And then towards the end of the session, you'll also get a letter from those counselors kind of evaluating how it's gone for him. The other thing I'd like to make super clear is if you are just ever wondering how it's going for him, and he continues to write you these letters that don't give you any information, and you're just kind of dying to know, you just pick up the phone and call the office. I probably won't be there, but they'll get me the message. And I can tell you that the way that I do my job is, I know these guys, I know what's going on with them. And I know what's going on in their cabins, and I can give you some good information. And if you have some specific questions, I can do more research. Don't hesitate to make those calls to me. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to talk to you. It makes me feel good because I usually get to tell you how great it is with your kid.
Adam, how many new counselors do we have versus returning counselors?
I think that probably this is a super big summer for us in terms of people that have already been at camp. Working on staff. I would say we're probably, in a typical summer, we're probably at 75% that have been to camp and 25% that are new. I think it's probably closer to 80 and 20 this year of people who have been to camp. Now, to be clear, some of those people, this is their first time on staff, but they grew up in our system and we know them real well.
Okay.
Adam, there was a question, but I think I just saw Michael leave the room. He had a question about whether you notify the parents when their campers arrive at camp.
Yep, that's already been answered.
Okay, cool.
We got that one. Are we missing some? Has anybody?
If you have a question that has not been answered, just unmute yourself and say it. Or a question that popped in your head just now.
So Adam, no trips during changeover?
There will be trips out over changeover. Actually, that's one of the ways. That it'll be easier for the guys who are 8-weekers. Is that we do plan on having some trips to hopefully span that whole phase 1 for second session. Yeah. Anyone else have a question they want to throw in?
Will AK visit?
So there's a question. There was a couple questions about the Yo-Yo Islands. Things have been pretty good on the Yo-Yo Islands. As you know, masks are a really big deal there. The Yo-Yo, just for those of you who are brand new, we have a very silly day towards the end of the summer where the chief of the Yo-Yo Islands comes to visit us, and
Good.
he will be making another visit again this year.
Excellent.
Another question here. If a camper does get homesick, would we allow time with siblings or cousins to help ease their mind? I'm guessing this is about those first 6 days.
Yeah, so certainly one of the great tools we have, if your son has a relative or somebody that he knows from home, one of the things that can be really useful is some interaction with that person. Yeah, we would still use that. Obviously, just use it in a thoughtful way to make sure that we are that we're doing it safely.
There was a question about international campers. Yes, we are planning on having international campers at camp this summer.
For some countries, it's more difficult than others. Jory, you're asking about Mexico. It's actually pretty good for Mexico. The boys from Monterrey, we think they are going to be able to make it. Yeah, we say yay as well. Those are nice kids. Anyone else want to chime in with a question?
Oh, there was one small one. This is a Joe Briggs question. I don't actually know the answer to. Is there a limit to the number of duffels you can send on the Chicago bus?
Well, not really, no. But remember, that stuff's
Yeah,
got to
she
come
can
back.
check it
So
at first.
the average number of duffels is 2. People bring between 2 and 3 duffels to camp. Most people that fly bring 2. Chicago kids sometimes come with more luggage, but 3, more than 3 duffels, then you probably are overpacking.
Yeah, there's not a limit, but come on, be reasonable. All right, Stephanie.
Yeah. So thank you all so much for, again, spending the time here tonight. I know this is a lot of information and some of it you probably already knew, but we really appreciate you being here. There's one thing I want to be sure to emphasize, and that is that we are all in this together. We all play a part here. All of us here at camp have been working really hard, as we've talked about, trying to come up with the way to best make sure camp is safe this summer. But it only takes one person who doesn't follow the guidelines or maybe makes a bad choice, and it could put it all at risk. So I'm just basically trying to appeal to you that we all need to do our part. And I know that you guys will. Our parent body, our campers are an awesome group of people. And I know you will do whatever you can to make sure you hold up your end of the bargain, so that we can make sure that this is a fun and safe, summer for all the campers. And then lastly, I just want to say, I'm a mom, 3 kids, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate the trust that you guys have put in us. Know that we take this extremely seriously and we enjoy it more than you'll ever know. And we're very, very excited that camp will be in person and we can have the joy and fun of camp again this summer. So thank you for sending your kids to camp.
Yeah, we do understand that as much as sending your kid to camp in a normal summer is a big swallow for the first time, that in this summer, it's an even bigger swallow. And we are incredibly humbled that you trust us with your kids. And that motivates us to continue to work hard to make sure that we do this as well as we possibly can. This is for sure going to be a unique summer for us. The fact that camp was not in session last year and that we're, for the first time in its history, was super hard on a lot of us that love the place so much. And this summer where it's coming back just carries a tremendous amount of weight for us. So we are just totally positive that this is going to be as special of a summer as ever has happened at camp, and to be honest, more special than most, because being there in this summer when one, Nebagamon is coming back from that summer when we weren't able to run, and two, in that summer when these kids have just had it so hard for the last year and a half and been so isolated from each other and from being outside and doing campy things, and that we finally have the opportunity to give that gift back to the kids of connection and fun and all the growth things that happen at camp. It's just, we just know this is going to be as special of a summer as there ever was, and we are extraordinarily excited for it, and we are extremely grateful for all of you for lending us your trust and your support. And please know, as we move forward, if you have any questions whatsoever, pick up the phone, give me a call, send me an email, and I'll get back to you. Thanks for coming out tonight, and we really appreciate all of you, and we can't wait to see your kids. We can't wait to see your kids. Good night.
Thank you.